Welcome to the show. My guest today is Jonathan Hood, founder of the Ahead of the Game mentorship program. He is a former defensive back for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and then the Toronto Argonauts. And he is also a professional speaker and executive coach. Jonathan is also a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto in Kinesiology. And over the past decade, Jonathan's programs have helped over 2,000 diverse young people achieve their goals. And at a time when more and more young people are feeling anxious, worried, confused, stressed, and lost, we can all learn a lot from him about mentorship. Jonathan Hood, what does it mean to be a mentor?
Well, mentorship, thanks, by the way, for that amazing introduction.
Of course.
It makes me sound way better than I really am. But mentorship to me means going on a journey with someone and sharing your experiences. There's a coach. The coaches typically direct you on how to be successful in a specific domain, and they teach you skills. And you develop those skills through coaching. And it's a little bit different than mentorship. Mentorship is, I'm going to share with you my experiences so that you will be further ahead than I was and that I am when it comes your time to be in my position. So I'll share my mistakes, I'll share my triumphs, I'll be open with you. And basically you have the opportunity as a mentee to take whatever combination of what I've shared with you and turn it into what you want along your journey.
That's great. So what is there to gain from being a mentor, if someone were to look at it that way? Or is that not the right way to do it? We need mentors, but I feel like we have to answer the question, what's in it for me from that person who is a mentor and probably is very busy and needs to justify the trade-off of their time?
Yeah, that is a good question. And it reminds me of a story. There was a time when I wasn't playing football. I got cut from a team. I was not playing for the entire season in the CFL. And I was exploring what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine said, why don't you reach out to different people and invite them out for coffee and just talk to them? And I experienced mentorship that way. And I was living downtown. And so I got to meet with a very diverse group of folks. I met with a performance coach. I met with a guy who started the leadership, basically training at TD Bank. I met with some people in the hotel industry, some leaders there. And I said, hey, can I take you out for coffee and just pick your brain about life? I'm in a phase in my life where I'm not sure where I want to go and what I want to do. And I'm just looking to hear your story. And I sat down with those people and they were more than willing to share. Great. And they're basically talking about themselves. So who doesn't like talking about themselves, right? So I got to learn a lot of valuable lessons, and they, felt so good to share that they ended up buying me lunch or coffee or whatever it is. So when it comes to what can you gain, I think you come to a point. Everybody comes to a point in your career, and it could be early and it could be later, where you have so much to give. Mm-hmm. And sometimes just doing your job doesn't satisfy that urge to give more. Mentorship is one of the simplest and most fulfilling ways to give, and to give at a high level. Like I could continue, if I am a player in a sport, I can play and make plays, and I will be impactful in my team. But as I grow in my expertise in my field, now I have the ability to show others how to play at a high level, so I can duplicate myself and be even more impactful. So I think there's just an intrinsic reward. There's a lot of intrinsic value to mentorship.
Oh, I'm sold. But so you mentioned asking people for coffee. I'm curious, do you look at mentorship more in that regard? Having someone that is from a mentee's perspective is available to go for a coffee, and it can be easily reached? Or do you see mentorship as more of a formal process with goals and a meeting schedule and progress reports, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, I think the mentorship relationship is what you hope it to be. And depending on what you would like from the relationship, you can create formal guidelines, or I guess rules of engagement. The way I encourage people to look at mentorship is more free structured, right? Because you don't want to say, I have to meet with this person this amount of time on these amount of days, or do this and that, or I have to do this or else I'm this, and then have you holding each other accountable to these goals that may not really matter in the grand scheme, right? So I like the informal approach, and that means being open to mentorship at many different levels. That may mean you have a coffee with someone and you never see them again, but that 15-minute, 30-minute encounter was so rich in learning that you took so much from it. But it may also mean that there's someone who you call, and you may call them, one of my mentors is Pinball Clemens, and he was actually my mentor before you even knew it. So he would come to my school, I would watch him on the field, I would watch him speak. He came to my school, we played basketball against him, and I always felt like he was someone I admired and I wanted to be like. And I got to know him through watching him and learning from him and about him. I never knew him personally. I didn't have a personal relationship with him, but he still mentored me from a distance, right? So there's no formalities there. It's just getting to learn and getting to know someone, seeing what they're about, and taking who they are and their character and learning from it. And then I actually got to meet him, I think it was in 2013, and we're good friends now. So now there is a bit of a more, a solid relationship there, but we never sat down and said, here's what this looks like and here's what we're gonna do. And he's a busy guy. I message him and call him all the time. And realistically, we're only able to sit down and chat probably 4 times a year, if that, right? Yeah. And when we chat, it's like for 3 hours. And I take everything that I can in those 3 hours. I cherish those 3 hours, and I use it for the rest of my life as much as I can until the next time I see him again.
That's beautiful, and I hadn't thought of it that way. And I guess to a different extent, you know, pinball is certainly a mentor for me too, from afar. Anytime anyone asks me about tips for captivating an audience and trying to bring, how do you bring 2,000 people in a room to silence? You know, it's watch pinball do it. And how he speaks slowly and deliberately and knows when to pause and doesn't use big, complicated words and uses eye contact. I think we could go on and on about pinball. But for those who have experienced a mentor-mentee relationship, and you sort of mentioned it, a one-off, a one-time coffee, I feel like there are people who could be a good mentor that have felt burned in some way. In other words, they thought maybe that they were going to get more out of this relationship. And I understand what you're suggesting as those benefits that you should be paying attention to in terms of the fulfilling nature, whether it be one meeting or a dozen. But I wonder what advice you have. Say a little more about someone who tried being a mentor, it didn't work out. Maybe they felt like they're, they put in time and they got burned. I'm using that expression again, and they're turned off to mentorship. What do you say to get them back into the mentorship arena?
So this is a very interesting topic of discussion, because I find that if you are not careful, it's easy to be in any kind of relationship because there's something that you want out of it. You have an expectation. And typically when our expectations aren't met, we're a bit disgruntled, right? If you teach, right? So, you know, in a perfect world, you give a lecture, the students listen to every word, You give them assignments, they do every assignment, they do it on time, and you're like, I made a difference. It doesn't work like that, though.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, right?
No.
I've taught in classrooms, and of like hundreds of students, I've walked around, and students are watching Grey's Anatomy on their laptop, right? So, but does that
Back
mean
row.
that, right? No, John, not even the back row. And so now I have a decision to make. Am I going to look at myself and internalize what they're doing, or I'm going to give them the power to do what they want with what I'm giving them, right? Yeah. So if you really are doing this for some kind of intrinsic value and to give, you give a gift, not expecting that that person is going to do exactly what you want with it. It's theirs. You've given it to them. It's there. They can do whatever they want with it. Your job is done. And I think that's where you have to find satisfaction, because you mentor, whether you know it or not, you're probably a mentor to many people. Like I said, Mike was my mentor. People are looking at you and they're looking up to you, right? So if you want to know your own impact, you'd have to be in everybody's heads. You'd have to follow them around their entire lives, and you'd have to know, was it because I said this that they're feeling this? But you can't. So you just have to have faith that what you're doing matters and just keep on giving.
I love that perspective, and I did not look at it that way, I admit, and you've changed my attitude. It is about just the matter of giving, and what they do with it. It doesn't matter. You can't control it. It's a gift that you gave. Can you add to that in terms of other qualities that you see in a good mentor? Can anyone be a mentor? I don't know. I'm curious what your point of view is. And if you are trying to build someone up, I know you've done some seminars in the past. Like, what are some qualities that you try to build up in someone who wants to be a good mentor?
Yeah, well, I do believe that anyone can be a good mentor. I think probably most people are mentors, whether they're good or bad. That's up to whoever's judging. But I think that providing people with space to be themselves is critical, right? Remember, if a person is coming to you to hear from you, they respect you. That's an honor in itself, right? Yeah. For you to say to me, Jonathan, I'd like you to come on my podcast, that's an honor, because that means that you see me as important enough that you would ask me to come on the show, right? So now if someone comes to you for your advice or for your expertise or to share a story, and they don't use that information the way that you want them to, don't feel dishonored. They've already honored you by coming to you. And by coming back to you, they've honored you again. So the first thing I would kind of teach is to be a good listener, right? To understand, well, what is it that this person is coming to me for? Do they want to hear my stories? Maybe they just need someone to talk to who's like a non-judgmental ear, right? Maybe they're having struggles in the same industry and they feel like they're the only ones going through it. That's typical, right? So if I, as a mentor, can listen and say, so-and-so wants to take me out for coffee, I say to myself, I wonder why this person wants to take me out for coffee. And sometimes I'll even ask, in a perfect world, what would you like out of this meeting? Right. And they tell me, and I can say, well, I can give you this, or I cannot give you this, but here's what I can do. And then I'm able to share, and they're able to extract what they need to from that. So I think being a good listener and just being humble and willing to give are the two biggest things that you want to practice as a mentor. And I think, though, as a human being, right? If you are around kids, young people at all, you know that it's critical to give them attention, right?
Absolutely.
And being a listener is a form of giving attention, active listening, right? Carl Rogers talks about just the stillness of listening is therapeutic. Yeah. Right? It's healing. Yeah. You may be just healing someone's hurt just by spending 15 minutes with them.
And I think, depending on who we have in our lives, some folks do need to practice that, as you say, that idea of listening actively and holding back from giving your opinion, and recognizing that sometimes people just want to be heard. You mentioned the mentee. That's a great segue to this idea of finding the right mentor. You mentioned asking people out for coffee. Are there any other ways that you would advise a young person who knows and has heard about the value of mentorship, but now is trying to, find someone that is the right, let's say, fit for them, and then how to approach them?
I think you have to have a desire to learn, first of all, and then to do a bit of research. So I think one of the biggest mistakes of some students in college or university is that they have a bit of tunnel vision where they think it's all about class and marks. Where university and college, post-secondary education is one of the richest learning environments, period. Right? And it's not all the learning takes place in class. Learning takes place when guest speakers come in.
Yeah.
Like speakers from around the world come in. And as a student, a lot of times you get to see these speakers for free.
Yeah.
When you're not a student, you're paying thousands of dollars to see these things, right?
It's true.
So the first thing is, let me really be a learner and let me find ways to learn. Let me see who's coming to campus to do a different talk. Who do we have access to in different programs? What companies sponsor our program? Because maybe that company is a company I want to work for. So I may be able to connect with that company because I'm a student and there's already a relationship. So you need to know yourself in a sense that this is what I want to learn, and then pursue that area, that industry, that field, those people, and learn about them first on your own, and then go learn with them. I spent some time in the States with John Maxwell, and he told a story about I forget who it was, but an individual wanted some time with like a big time speaker, and she did research on this individual and knew that they like Coke, the Coca-Cola, the drink.
Yeah.
And so they sent them an email and asked for a meeting and said, I have a Coca-Cola with your name on, and I'd like to meet with you. And that instantly would set that person apart from the thousands of others who may have contacted them, and they got some time with them.
It's great. I love two researchers agreeing on the fact that when it comes to mentorship, it also involves doing your research.
Yeah.
Jonathan, let's close by talking about the Ahead of the Game program that you've been running for almost a decade now. It's now a virtual mentorship program that builds upon three important, I'm calling them pillars, you may say phases of understanding and accountability. And I really like these: understanding yourself, understanding your impact on another person, and understanding your impact on groups and society. And this isn't covered in 3 days, right? I mean, these are deep topics that I know you get into for good reason. And I really like these pillars. Can you talk a bit more about them and why mentorship programs are especially needed today?
Yes, so the program and the way we present it is built on the foundation of emotional intelligence. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, we look at the work of Dan Goleman. Emotional intelligence basically has four spheres: self-awareness, self-management, empathy, which is understanding other people's emotions, and then relationship building. So in order to have a chance at understanding others, I need to understand myself. And you don't need this deep, profound understanding. You just need to be aware, right? Be aware, why do I feel the way that I feel? Or I have feelings, right? What could those feelings be? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they happy? What are they, right? Then going on to how do I manage those? And then after I can mastery of self, I can understand other people, because you have a lot more grace for people going through things when you've gone through it yourself.
Right.
So I know I'm on a journey of self-awareness and understanding myself better. So if I'm talking to you, John, and you don't understand yourself that well, I have grace for you because I say, I've been there. I know where he's at, and I want to be an ally on his journey. But if I've never been through it, then I'm just like, well, what are you talking about, John? What are you doing? And sometimes I may even get upset with you. So then once I understand other people, then I can build relationships. And we all know that the core of life is relationships, right? Relationship with God, your creator, relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and how those intertwine in different spheres of life. So now when it comes to mentorship, you're building a relationship.
Right.
And if you have good mentors, that relationship should be positive, right? That relationship should evoke a little bit of reflection.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship should give you an example of good leadership, all of which will help the mentee along their way, right? So I firmly believe, because for me, everything that I do, I've had stellar mentors. And I know that I would not have accomplished any of what I have without mentors. From high school, I had teachers and coaches who really embraced me as a young man, not just a student. When I was in university, it was the same thing here. As I finished my PhD, my supervisor is just a great person, and she cares about me as a human being, right? Not just as a performing student or a commodity. And as I said, Mike is just full of love. And when I speak to him, I feel special, right? I feel like the time that I get with him is invaluable, right? It's priceless, right? And when you're able to do it's very simple, actually. Mentorship is simple. It's not something that I need to call you every single day or every single week. It's a healthy, free-flowing relationship that is really it flows through the partnership of the mentor and the mentee. And so the more that we have instances of people treating each other like humans, I think the better off this world will be. We've got tons of racial tension. We've got Black Lives Matter movement, and it basically is saying that you haven't been treating Black people as humans for so long, and here's been the outcomes. And we just want to be treated like humans. Like, why don't we just start from there? Let's treat everybody like a human being, not as a check mark on a list, not as something I have to accomplish, not as something I can get money from, as a human being who once was you.
Right.
Maybe that's why Mike is open to mentoring me, because he sees some of himself in me. Maybe that's why I'm open to mentoring youth, because I see some of myself in them. I know that I used to struggle. I know that I needed guidance, and I know that I wouldn't be here where I am without my other mentors, my mentors. So why not pay it forward?
Jonathan Hood, you've made an outstanding case, I think, to anyone who has been on the fence about being a mentor, and provided excellent advice from someone who has always heard about the mentor-mentee relationship and didn't know how to go about finding a mentor. I'll add something that I've been hearing throughout all of your comments, which is these two components, and I can't really give credit to who has said it, but honesty and communication are the fundamentals to any relationship, like you said, between partners, between mentor and mentee, between employees, between employer and employee, and so on. This idea of being transparent. What can I give you out of this meeting? Here's what I'd like to get out of it. And this idea, or this notion of this free flow, just being honest about the fact that anything could come out of this, and being open and communicative about how that relationship is going. Thank you very much, Jonathan Hood.
Thank you, John.
Jonathan Hood can be reached at jonathanhood.ca or aheadofthegame.ca. mentorship.ca, where you can learn more about his virtual mentorship program and executive coaching and more. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you, John. My pleasure.